This is the class that you learn to be funny with Rick and George.
Okay. George.
Yep.
George.
Scoot doo, blabbity blue, scoop dee. Oh yeah!
You're gonna be on the couch.
Okay. Did you look me up?
What do you mean?
You do your diligence on my background?
Have you done anything before?
You know, a couple things.
You're the dude from the Chihuahua movies, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I've been a fan since
All
those.
three.
Papa Chihuahua?
I wasn't going to let anybody take my franchise from me.
I don't have a stand-in, so I'll be around here.
All right.
How's every? Oh yeah, this will be good.
It's good.
And I'll be here.
Yeah, man, I lived out here.
We're good. You can start talking. I'll just be with you in a sec.
Interesting neighborhood. The guy next to me was an old guy, and fuck, pretty wild. That guy's house caught on fire, man. Shit, I've never seen a house catch on fire before. Not that I lived next door to.
You've seen other houses catch on fire.
Yeah, but not one that I heard this crackling. I'm like, what the fuck is that sound? And went outside, and the guy's house.
Do you know what happened?
No. Ralph and somebody else.
Well, then why the fuck are we talking about
I don't
it?
know. Just
Who gives a shit? Edit all of
we're
this
warming
in.
up. We're warming up.
So when you got here, you went to the wrong house?
Yeah.
I feel like if you go to the wrong house, though, they would be okay with it.
Not in this neighborhood.
Is this a racist?
It wasn't
Do
a-
I live in a racist neighborhood?
I wasn't a warm welcome. No, I just think everybody's leery of anybody standing in their driveway, So I would say, I'm looking for Rick. You have the wrong address, but not a smile. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, sorry. Thank you.
Do you think they recognized you and didn't care?
I would say that I don't think she recognized me.
You get better treatment when you're recognized, right?
Well, I mean, anybody that gets lost in these days of somebody saying, hey, I'm looking for Rick, they're like, he's not here. I don't think you're going to be greeted warmly no matter who you are.
I don't know. If Paul Rudd is outside,
The sexiest man alive?
yeah, but Paul Rudd 2 weeks ago.
Okay. I don't want to hang my hat on that hook, but, I just think people are just leery overall.
You
You used to be able to, one time my car broke down on the day that I was doing the Tonight Show in 91.
wait, I'm listening. Also being so rude, I need to grab this.
And
Got good news.
Well, hurry up, because I'm hungry.
Well, that's perfect because this episode is brought to you by DoorDash.
Really? You mean the same DoorDash where you get 25% off and 0 delivery fees on your first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app and enter code TYSO, T-Y-S-O.
That's the one.
This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp or BetterHelp.com. And I like BetterHelp.
Why did you have to tell them or BetterHelp.com?
Some people are digital and some people are analog. I touched both of them.
Which one is .com digital or analog?
Digital
So analog.
is BetterHelp
How so?
because there's no .com.
Listeners get 10% off their first month by going to betterhelp.com/TYSO.
if my car stopped and was there phones back? No. So I knocked on the lady's door and I said, my car just stopped out here. I think I could use your phone? And she said, yeah, come on in. And used her phone. And I was like, shit, man. That was probably like 11. I had to go to the Tonight Show like 3:30. And the car stopped. I was like, oh, man, not today.
Tonight Show with whom?
Johnny Carson. And I knocked on the door, cold, and she was like, oh, I'm sorry, my car was driving, and she was like, come on in, use the phone. I forgot who I called, but AAA maybe?
People were nicer then?
Yeah. I think so.
How many late nights did you do?
How many shows?
Yeah.
I did all of them, I think.
No, I'm saying like how many times did you do a 5-minute-ish late night set?
50,
50.
maybe.
Carson the most? No, it couldn't be.
Arsenio the most. Arsenio was 15. And, it's funny, man, how thing is, my default my default is always to say no. Like I'm not I'm not going. Or you have a spot tomorrow at the Improv. I'm not going. And a lot of times I didn't go, and a lot of times I went, but it was always, my default was like, I'm not going. So that was the day after the Grammys was on a Tuesday. That was a Wednesday in February of 89. And Scott LaRose, this comedian, comes into the Improv and he goes, I have another spot. Can I go ahead of you? And I said, all right. So while he was up, Arsenio and his director and his producer walked in and walked past me. So they saw all of me. And then when I was leaving, he followed me out and he said, hey, man.
Did you know who they were when they were walking in?
Yeah.
Because you saw Arsenio.
Yeah. And the show was just like, had been on for a month. And he said, hey, your manager sent me a tape, but I want you to be on the show after seeing you. And I said, all right. And that's how, and we're still friends to this day. Like, that's fucking a long time ago. 30.
I remember when I did your podcast, you talked about how you said no, you didn't want to do things, but then wasn't there a shift when you decided I'm going to start doing this stuff now? Because you were doing stand-up, but you didn't really count it. You weren't sure if you were going to keep going.
Yeah.
And then your high school baseball coach
told me that I was a quitter.
And you realized that was true.
Yeah. From golfing, I realized it was true. And it's funny because, when I quit on people, like if I worked someplace and I left the job, usually you could stay friends with people, if you really enjoyed them and had them as friends. But
unless they chew during the show.
Yes. There was a fucking AD that would sit there with a moving pedestal, and underneath his fucking podium, he would be eating. And the rule was, when we do the table read, no eating. I told this guy, and I was young, first year. And I said, can I talk to you? And he said, yeah, close the door. And I said, listen, man, me and him. I said, I don't like when you eat when we're rehearsing because we're working. Later on in the season, I looked over and he was fucking eating and he saw me and he put it under like he hit it and I fired him. I did an award show that I was hosting and he's standing there and he's not talking to me, got the headset on, and he's the one that's taking me to where I need to stand. And we're both standing there, and he's not looking at me, and I'm not looking at him. And I go, what'd you have to eat today? And we're back. And I just kind of quit on people. I didn't value friendships. When you spend a lot of time alone, I think, you can meet people at work, but I don't think, I was friends with any of them, even though it would appear that I was friends with them. The minute I left the job, I never kind of took any of the friendships with me. So it's funny to look back between, that was 84 to 89, 5 years. It's not a long time to really kind of gather yourself after getting that advice and then focusing on not quitting and focusing to do something that is very difficult to do, but to keep doing it.
You saying you used to being alone, is this a bigger picture more than a choice? I don't know how much you want to get into, but this with your parents, then growing up with your grandma, is that something we could talk about?
Yeah, sure.
Your dad left when you were real little.
Never met him.
Never met him. Never met him or don't remember? Like, did he see you being born?
No, wasn't around.
So he was out before you were born?
Yes. And
then your mom, when you were 10?
I tried to live with my mom a couple of times, and then I just... my mom was very kind of young mentally.
How old was she when she had you?
22.
Years?
Yeah, 22 years old. So it was like almost being with a sister that would let you do almost anything you wanted to do. And I, I knew enough that I didn't want to fucking be raised like that. Like, a lot of guys.
How old are you when you know that?
9 or 10.
You're 9 or 10,
I know that if I live with her.
What do you compare that to? What other mothers do you know that are doing things differently?
Well, just some dudes that you grow up in school, and those guys are, they could go out at 11 o'clock at night, and they could come back, and they could stay out all night, and their parents wouldn't care. Like, I knew enough to know that that's probably not the road I would have gone down. All the guys that I grew up with, that their parents let them kind of do whatever they wanted to do, have done time in prison, and then a couple.
But
of
you're
those guys
9. Those guys aren't in prison yet. How do you know that young?
Because when you're in school, they're talking about going out and staying out all night or fucking.
So you're friends with older kids.
A little bit, but the guys my age too were out there.
I mean, that's third grade. Who's
Yeah.
going out in third grade?
Hey man, these dudes went out. And
Really?
stayed out. Yeah.
What do they do in third grade? Where are they going?
They're going to the park. You know, they're going to ride bikes in the mountains out there, and they're going to, watch games, softball games, football games in the park and stuff.
Wow.
Crazy, man. It's crazy.
Different
Yeah.
time.
Different time.
So at 9 years old, you think to yourself, this isn't the path for me. Mm-hmm. And then what's the choice you make?
I didn't go with those guys. And, when I was 13, these guys wanted to start a gang. They wanted to start like a club, a gang. And I didn't want to be in it, and these are all the guys that I grew up with, all the main guys.
How do they explain what a gang is to you? Is a gang
They just
guns and violence, or is a gang something different?
Well, they wanted to be a gang. I don't think they thought what kind. And then there was a guy playing baseball with his son at the park, and they were going to have a meeting, and they said to me, "Hey man, you have to go because you're not in our gang." And I said, "All right." And when we got to school on that Monday, they had beaten up that man and beat up his kid and took their equipment and ran off. And I was like, fuck these guys, man. I'm not going to do that shit. And they were bragging about it like it was a big deal. I fucking hated that. I hated that they did that.
Were you funny?
Man, dry funny. Only in certain circles, but not outwardly funny. I don't think anybody that grows up to be a comedian who's successful is outwardly funny as a kid.
I was hysterical. I wouldn't call myself successful, but thanks for the laugh.
You are hysterical, I think. I think you're funny.
But you, I think I talked to you about, I did, on your podcast, when I first realized I knew I wanted to create and I knew I wanted to perform. It wasn't specifically comedy. And I started going to some shows, and I saw Tracy Morgan, who I was already a fan of, and I saw him being. It's still probably just because it was my first time seeing him. I'm still like, Jesus, that's not Tracy Jordan, and that difference. And I'm not surprised by it anymore, but I always am. Like, I'm curious. What are you like? And you are at least from my very limited experience, very not performative.
Not performative
on
at all.
stage, you are very performative.
Yes.
That's found from the craft and not who you were, that silly kid.
It's found from the craft. When I was growing up, we always would say, shit like, go ask the man what time they close. Go ask that man what time the store closes. So I realized that whoever was the man was better dressed than the employees.
I don't understand anything.
If you went to a store or you went to a restaurant and said, may I speak to the manager? He was dressed better than the waiters. Different, in a suit, a lot of times in a suit. So I started to realize that, the people that were important wore suits and everybody else.
Oh, so you're telling me here's some tricks you picked up.
Yeah.
So that's why you wear suits.
Yeah.
It makes you, because you think it makes the audience say, look at this guy.
I just think if you don't show respect to your profession, and one time I wore a fucking polo shirt on stage, and they did an article on me when I worked in Northridge, and this guy was a relative of Ballantyne, the magician, and he said, "Can I talk to you for a second?" And I said, he goes, I read this, on you in this picture. Is this the way you dress? And I said, yeah, that's what I was wearing. And he said, let me give you a tip, man. Don't ever let the audience be better dressed than you. Because they're coming to see you. They're coming to have a good night. They're coming to laugh. They're coming to do whatever. Don't let anybody in the audience be better dressed than you.
And that connected with you.
It connected with me.
That wouldn't connect with me.
Yeah. This was a different time, man.
Yeah, but people still do it. And I've gone on stage in a suit a couple times. What's this? $10. You want it? Sure. Never be afraid to ask. And it worked really well for me. Maybe I just had a better set that night. I don't have that much data. Yeah. But I am a certain way where I do think one of the benefits of a suit is it's not sustainable, but at first they trust you a little bit.
Yeah.
whether they realize it or not. And then you could lose the trust, or you could get trust if you're not wearing a suit. But I like it because it almost suit is like a prop to me. But I don't want to wear a suit all the time. I don't even like wearing pants. I wear sweatpants constantly because I'm so uncomfortable.
I just think for me it was like like I know the guys in Kiss. I've met them, and you see them before, and then you see them get dressed, and they mean business. They're fucking 7 feet tall and all this stuff that they've been doing forever. And to me, I wanted there to be a break in the day versus doing the show at night. And then when I was starting out, we were all kind of working, and then I came out of the Bob Hope Theater in Stockton, and before the show started, and this guy goes, "Hey, man, I was just talking to my brother about you," and my brother was like, "Who?" And this guy says, "The guy in the suit." And he goes, "Oh, okay, I know who you're talking about." And that was the day. That was the night I was not gonna wear a suit. I was about to go change and just dress like the rest of the guys. And it's funny how that fucking guy appeared out of that backstage and said, "I was just talking about you and the suit," and I put the suit on.
This is after the guy already told you, and then his brother is at a show.
Mm-hmm.
I don't still understand a 9-year-old boy deciding not to live with his mom. What are the logistics? Do you have to be like, "Mom, I got to talk to you for a second"?
No, it was never that. It was never that. I'm telling you, she had epilepsy, and she was illiterate and very kind of adolescent in her thinking. I mean, it was easy to see that she wasn't like any of the parents that my mom had, that my other friends had.
But what happens? How do you go from living with your mom in, I assume, her place, to packing your bags and going to your grandma's?
My grandmother I was always with my grandmother, and my mom lived with my
You lived with your grandma.
And then she moved away, and I tried to go with her, but it didn't work.
Oh, wow. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Your mom packs her bags and says, "I'm leaving," and you say, "Don't leave me," type of thing?
No. She met a dude in Sacramento, and she was with that guy, and that guy was all right. He was nice.
I have a surprise for you. Ladies and gentlemen.
Is he here?
That guy.
He died a long time ago, I think.
I'm sorry.
But no. So all of those things that, I just didn't want to live. I just didn't feel like living.
Did you stay in touch with your mom?
No.
How old are you when she leaves?
She left a few times, but 9, and then in my early 20s, and then the last time, my grandmother was her mother, so my grandmother was already starting to slip mentally, starting to forget things, and in the 90s, late 90s, and I remember calling her up and saying, "Your mother is starting to slip. I know you live in Sacramento. I know there's not a lot of things that keep you there. And I'm going to, make you an offer. Like, if you come and live with her and take care of her," to your mother.
Is your show out yet at this point?
No. I said, I'll give you the house, and, I'll buy you guys groceries, and you just stay there and look after your mom as she gets older. And she didn't even think about it. She goes, "No."
Oof.
And I said, "No?" She goes, "No." And I went, "All right." And that was it. Told me no. Didn't even think about it. No.
You ever talked to her after that?
No.
I don't want to be tacky, but I do have another surprise for you.
Is she here?
Ladies and gentlemen,
She's not here.
what does that do to you? What does that do to you? Because I have another question that is your mom, I apologize if this is a racist question, but is your mom born in America?
Yeah.
Your grandma born in America?
Yes.
Does this, because I talk to a fair amount of people, and I hear them talking on other podcasts, kids that are first and sometimes second generation American, they're embarrassed of the culture, because you are like a lot of, you have a special that's all in Spanish. I mean, your audience is not just in America.
Yeah.
So it's part of your identity. there are people that I know that now older, their culture is part of their comedy identity, but when they were a kid, they kind of stayed away from it. Is that something that you did, conscious or otherwise, or was it never split like that?
Well, no, when I think some advice I got from Dave Becky, who
Shot
handled
3 yards up with the Instagram handle up here.
who handled Chris Rock. He came to see me at Caroline's in the early 90s, 91 around there. And afterwards he came back and he said, as I watch you, I don't know anything about you. It's hard to tell anything that you like or dislike from seeing your act. And, there's no political view. There's no family in there. And he goes, what are the things that, it's kind of mundane, he said, so what are the things that would interest you? Like, what would you write if you were writing something that was interesting and not just jokes? Mm-hmm. I mean, is there a relative that you could talk about? And I remember I fucking walked back to the Mayfair House Hotel, Mayfair. And overnight I said, that's where it's like, it was almost like became a crack den hotel. I think they tore it down. And then I figured out it was my grandmother, and that constructive criticism kind of put me in another direction to go where I could, 10 years later, write a show about my family, and every character was defined.
You told me 3 examples of things that had to do with stand-up, and each one of them was advice you got and took. Wearing a suit, the not quitting, talking about your family. Are you somebody that likes direction?
If somebody's right,
could you bring the mic a little closer? No.
If somebody's if somebody's right, I don't mind it. But also, I
But do you seek it?
No.
Is there no connection to you being a kid on your own, in a way, and then people giving advice, or seeking advice, seeking rules?
No,
Nothing.
No. I just kind of, I knew I could tell the difference between right and wrong. And I could tell the difference in how these guys were behaving and where they would get them. Like these guys in high school were leaving school and go breaking into houses and robbing houses during the day. And they would come back at lunch and they would show rings that they had and watches and shit they found. And I fucking never was going to do that. And those guys, one's dead and one was in prison for, I don't know where he is, but he did like 30 years, that guy.
George, I hate to be...
Again?
I have another surprise for you. I'm going to go get my coffee.
It'd be awesome. Go ahead.
We'll be right back. What would you do if you really wanted to get some, let's say, Chipotle or a nice steak, but you don't want to leave because it's cold outside?
The thing is, I never want to leave. I want my food delivered to me every day, and I have my food delivered to me every day via DoorDash, by the way.
Hey, Mom, will you make Dad and me some dinner?
Yeah, that's right. Funny.
What do you want? You know what? Let's order now.
You know what? Chipotle sounds good.
I'll never pick up my food anymore.
I'll tell you a quick story.
What do you guys think? You think you should tell us a story?
Oops.
Oh, are you okay?
About 2.5 years ago, I can remember driving down the street, going to my store, and there was a Wendy's. Mm-hmm. I always pass the Wendy's. Sometimes I use that drive-through window at Wendy's, and it says DoorDash. I had no idea what DoorDash meant or what DoorDash was. I got so excited, I went back to my store, I Googled DoorDash, and I found out it was a food delivery service.
Oh, whoa. Here we are 2.5 years later.
And I've used it 5 days a week for the last 2.5 years. I bet you I'm one of the largest single DoorDash users in the state. Your listeners can now get 25% off and 0 delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more. All they have to do is download the DoorDash app and enter the code TYSO, TYSO.
That was great. That was your first go at that.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah.
Let me try now.
Okay.
That's 25% off, up to a $10 value, and 0 delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter code TYSO.
Don't forget, that's code TYSO for 25% off and 0 delivery fees on your first order of $15 or more.
Say it with me with DoorDash subjects, terms, and apply.
What?
Well, subjects to change, terms apply. With DoorDash, subject to change, terms apply. You do, but you know how they do that?
Subject to change, terms apply.
Yeah, but it's more like you don't need to do this. You know what? Subject to change, terms apply.
With DoorDash, it's the grammar mistake.
Subject to change, terms apply.
Mid-roll.
This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Check out BetterHelp.com and use code TYSO for 10% off your first month.
BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Unload the stressors. Get some unbiased feedback. You'd be pretty surprised at what you might gain from it. See if it's for you.
Dad, if you had to pick one of your top 5 things about therapy, what would it be?
I like the fact that the therapist explained to me that when I'm acting out and I have feelings, other people have those same feelings. So it makes me feel part of the population.
When there's things you can't tell anybody or feel you can't unload to family or friends, and Dad, there are some things I can't tell you. For example, cover your ears. Cover your ears. You could listen.
Then you should call or go to BETTERHELP.com/TYSO for 10% off your first month.
This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Take Your Shoes Off listeners get 10% off their first month by visiting BetterHelp.com/TYSO. You don't ever have to worry about that.
I don't have to worry about that.
No. You and my dad have hair that they don't even realize is perfect. My dad, I look at my dad's hairline. It's like his forehead is like a thumbnail, and it's just. And as many people get older, their hair some goes away, some it just recedes a little, and everywhere in between. I guess some doesn't go anywhere. But I started to get a little like, oh no, I'm worried about losing. And I remember talking to my dad about it. And my dad, it seems like he's now in his 60s. Until he was in his 60s, I don't think he realized. I don't think people with good hair know, because they don't look at it. They're not thinking about it. And my dad's like, oh, do I have good hair? And he started doing my podcast a bit. He's on the episodes. Yeah. He does commercials and stuff. Nonstop comments about my dad's hair. My dad's now growing it out. And it's just like.
Is it salt and pepper? Or is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. All the guys that I grew up with had great hair, better than mine. And they're just all guys have been bald forever. And, it's kind of like receding and stuff.
Do you think you would be as successful as you are if you didn't have that hair? Are you getting the shows you're getting? Are you getting a late night show? Are you all these things?
I would say that if I didn't have hair, things would be different.
Isn't that crazy?
Because it's not like I come from a long line of successful comedians who have had hair. Any excuse to not hire somebody, and I think hair would be one of them.
Yeah.
Looking back down at where I come from, you could see there's points in your career where people were just brutally fucking honest with you, and then you exceeded what they thought of you.
Honest with you, how? What's the brutally honest?
I had a manager that, when I asked her, if anybody would come and see me showcase, she was on the phone and she said, nobody wants to see you. Do you understand?
Why does she want to represent you?
She couldn't get anybody to, she was, they were with me for a little while, and then they weren't doing it. How it happened was, I was at the Improv on Melrose, and Jim McCauley was there from The Tonight Show. And he was standing next to these people who were managers. And he said, do you represent him? And he goes, no, we're looking at him to represent him. He goes, oh, well, if you end up representing him, tell him I'd like to see more, and have him come in. And they used that to kind of hang their hat on. And then after a few years of them doing nothing, we had that conversation. Nobody wants to see you conversation.
89, Arsenio becomes a fan. You end up doing a show 15 times. A couple years later, you're at Caroline's Becky from manager who represents Chris Rock. How does during that 2 years, what happens to where now people want to come out and see you? What are you doing? Why are you breaking through?
I think that it was new enough. It was interesting enough. I looked different enough, and it was not something that I think was done in abundance back then. And I was doing Sunday comics, Comic Strip Live, Arsenio all the time. And Arsenio was so hot that It was like those shows that, I did America's Got Talent as a judge a few years ago, and the next day,
I don't remember that.
everybody sees you and they're like, "Oh, I saw you on America's Got Talent."
You did a
Like,
whole season?
Everybody. No, I did during the Golden Buzzer time. I did a couple shows.
Still Golden Buzzer time.
Golden Buzzer time.
It's still going on,
It's still
Golden
going.
Buzzer.
Yeah. So they would it would be one of those immediate, just like Arsenio was immediate. If you did it early on when he was on, if you went to the bank, they would be like, "Oh my God, hey, I saw you." Nobody does that shit anymore. But
I got to tell you something. From my podcast, it's been happening to me. It's never happened. I've been
There you
on. I went to a movie yesterday. 2 people. I'm wearing a mask or stopping, and it's like, I'm sure at a certain point it might be a little like okay, but it's nuts.
yeah. How many subscribers do you have? How many followers?
On YouTube, I'm not, like high 60,000s.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
not
shit.
like a big.
That's pretty good.
It's growing
Yeah.
very well. But what's been really nice about this, and I don't remember if I've talked about this on the podcast, is people see you on a show. You're a little different. That was your show.
Right.
Now people see people on a show and they're like, oh, that's the guy from the thing. They don't know you. They know of you, kinda.
Right.
But when people are fans from a podcast where they watch you, not necessarily every week, but maybe
Yeah.
in long form conversations, they like me. They don't just recognize me.
Right.
And what's been cool, and I have talked about this, is that I really like, and it's not just this, but it's why this. People want to take pictures. And do you remember, we'll put up here, when I did the picture after I did your show, you guys stayed away from me.
Yep.
You were making a joke.
Right.
But you knew me.
Yep.
Enough. People are coming up to me asking to take pictures, but like, I'll stay away. Like they, and it's just, it's easy. It's easier.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about going up on stage and people liking me. People watching my podcast feels like me wearing a suit.
Yes.
It's not enough, but that first minute, they're rooting for me.
Right.
I don't know why I got into that.
It's a way to get familiar with, the podcast is kind of an extension of what somebody would have done if they were on VH1 or doing comedy somewhere where you could kind of see it when you wanted to see it, and the repetition of it. But this takes the place of, this is like a fireside chat almost, kind of the days of that.
It is
Back then when you fire that thing up.
I used to do them on the balcony when I was socially distanced, so people were outside.
Yeah, I remember that you said,
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
But I would have the fire on. What's a good word for confidence that also has built-in victory to it?
Big dick energy.
No. Big pussy energy.
Okay.
You have the biggest pussy energy. You have a huge, huge, gaping pussy energy
Yeah.
that is really fun to play with.
I'm glad you think that.
We'll be right back with a word from Conan and Friends. And you would see it, and it was cold outside. And it would be real, but I'm doing it for a joke, where I would be in sweats. They're wearing a coat. I have the fire, you know. And
That's
just
awesome.
and they're just like...
Yeah.
So you... I don't think that I still get the idea of like, you're doing things different. People are coming around. It's 91. Is it stand-up that brings you... Stand-up and Sandra Bullock, which I want to hear a little bit more about.
Yeah.
But that brings you to your show, and is your show... Is that what changes your career?
Oh, yeah.
Like that? Because back then it kind of was, there weren't so many shows.
Well, I would say yes, because, I mean, it's ABC, man. It's not the CW or the WB.
Not that there's anything wrong with the CW or the
no,
WB.
but it was one of the major networks. I mean, you grow up watching ABC. You don't ever think you're going to be on it. But then it was kind of in a block with Bonnie Hunt and myself and John Ritter and Damon Wayans did a 2-hour of 4.
Oh, that was their must-see TV for ABC.
And it did well.
Was it Mad About You?
That was NBC.
Then what's Bonnie Hunt's show? That's not even
The
Bonnie Hunt, that's Helen
show.
Hunt.
Bonnie. Yeah. Bonnie
Oh, I
Hunt.
vaguely remember that.
Yeah. Bonnie Hunt.
And Damon's show was what?
My Wife and Kids.
Right.
So it was
That was mid-90s. Not early,
8
right?
Simple Rules, Damon, me, and then Bonnie Hunt, I think. Yeah.
And that was their...
That was their block of 2 hours of comedy, and they did well. So
What year did it start? 94?
that was 2002.
Wait a minute. It was in the 90s I watched your show, didn't I?
No.
Really? Mm-hmm. I guess
It started in
I was in school.
March 2002.
I feel like when I was in high school, I was watching syndication of your show. Maybe was your show on all the time, even when it was on?
No, it didn't syndicate till 2007.
My timeline's messed up then.
Yeah.
So it was a while before you got your show.
It was a while, yeah.
A decade. Were you doing well before that?
Yeah, I mean, I worked on the road a lot. I was making like, $100,000 a year in that time in the 90s. Pretty
Just
good.
as a touring comedian.
Yeah. But then, you get stuck in that bag of like, you're missing out on shit, or you hear other people have things going on.
Missing out, why? Because you're literally on the road?
Because you're on the road, yeah. It's the only way you can make money.
Right.
But then you're away from, but then you can't, that's why guys would try to save money so that during pilot season they could try to be here.
Pilot season, February, a little of March.
Yeah.
So 6 weeks.
That's it.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't do that. I was gone all the time. And I remember telling my wife at that time that, I'd become what I fucking despised the most was to be a comedian on the road.
Despised it, why?
Because the only way you could make money was to be on the road. And there's no fucking end of the road. People die on the road.
Right.
People get in accidents on the road. People, fucking get drugged up. They OD. I mean, it's dangerous out there, man.
Did you think that you were really good?
I don't know if I thought I was really good. I mean, I think the people liked me. It's kind of a quality that they were fans, and it wasn't until I thought I was okay. I mean, I didn't have an abundance of, like, I think when you're building like an hour, I didn't have 2 hours. I had maybe an hour and 15 minutes, and you're always trying to write and find your identity. But it's almost like you're trying to build, of the Watts Towers, of trying to take discarded things from your life and build something that people would want to look at. So it was slow in coming, but I wasn't bad while I was learning. Some people just don't get it, and then maybe years later you get it. Like I could always be funny while I was understanding how good I had to be consistent all the time.
What does that get you? For example, today you go on the road because you want to master an hour and then be able to then make a special.
Yeah.
And then on to the next.
Right.
But for doing it you've done 8 specials? You've done a bunch.
I've done a bunch, yeah.
When was the first one?
The first one was on Showtime. It was I did it in 2004.
Right. So not until your show.
Not until my
So
show.
you have a decade of mastering an hour, changing it without an outlet for it. So
Right.
the only reason you're creating this hour is to then make money the next weekend.
Right.
Are you aware? Are you trying to do something with that hour during that decade, or is it just shooting around?
You
for
know
a
what?
decade?
I mean, I had HBO come and see me before my show, and the answer was always no.
Why?
I just didn't think they think I was funny enough or good enough.
How much? Before you have a show, and the show is 2003, 2002, 2004, 2002. You said
2002.
So 2001, 2002, 2001. Before the show is a possibility. Okay, you're this funny. 2002, you do the show, and you're probably the same funny.
Probably.
But now people are like, ooh, look at him. But before they weren't. So it's not that you're necessarily funnier, right? The industry trusts you.
Well, what I had was what, every comedian strives to have is consistency. Like, you don't want to be a guy that does well 2 times in a row, and then somebody comes to see you,
Yeah.
and the crowd isn't what you think it would be, and then they die. I did well no matter where I worked and no matter what I did, because that's what I was building consistency. I've been in the back of the room when people had development deals or had people in the room to get a development deal, and that they didn't do well and it went away. So, I mean, I saw people who thought they had deals, but one shitty set and they all go away.
Is there something that you could boil down to, like, always wear a suit, that allowed you to, outside of just doing it a lot, which most comics do, that allowed you to be like, I know how to be good enough. And I've mentioned this before, but in Steve Martin's autobiography, there's a quote that I love, which is, it's not about being great. Anybody could be great sometimes. It's about consistently being good.
Yep.
Is there a way you were able to like, I don't have that special thing today, but like I do know here are the fundamentals, or is there something you could kind of boil down?
Know, the stuff that I was doing was more for me, and that the consistency came in that it was part of my life, and talking about a culture that nobody had really kind of become that person yet. Paul Rodriguez didn't do it. Where you're talking about barbecues, and you're talking about going to church, and you're talking
25
about
people in a car,
and you're talking about not going to the doctor and drinking a 7-Up and burping it out, and all of those things that became almost like hallmarks of my stand-up. That I had things that people laughed at because it was fresh to them and new to them.
And that includes people of all cultures?
Yeah. It's funny how, somebody would say to me, I don't know, I'm not Mexican, so I would know. You go, it's economic, man. It's not Mexican. It's like, poor people don't want to go to the doctor. Poor people try to fix shit themselves. Poor people wouldn't hire an electrician, and poor people get fucking shocked when they're fucking around with touching shit with fucking wet, bare feet. Just not, they're not careful.
There's a 30 Rock episode. Did you watch 30 Rock?
No.
You're familiar with it?
Yes.
Tracy Morgan plays a character named Tracy Jordan.
Yep.
He's he's on a show like SNL, but he was originally a stand-up. And there's an episode where he's doing stand-up. They say Tracy's kind of lost touch with reality or with the audience.
You know how on Saint Bart's people be eating their lobster like this? Don't look at me in the eyes.
He's just not relatable anymore, but he's being honest to himself. I mean, it's a very broad version.
Yeah.
But you go from talking about, not spending $2.50 on a hot dog at the Dodgers game,
right,
and getting a bag of bread and bologna, to where you could, be a partial owner of the Dodgers.
Right.
But you still, your point of view is still a bit more, correct me if I'm wrong, skewed toward not being able to be a owner of the Dodgers.
It's a little bit, yeah. I it's funny because, we always try to, as Latinos, we always try to hurt other people by saying they're a sellout or they're, a punk or you changed. But, in growing up the way that I did, to take slings and arrows from people and take a lot of rejection and
so
take
you did steal
abandonment on occasion.
That was a slings and arrows stealing joke.
Yeah. So you build up a little bit of a, I wasn't relying on everybody liking me, and I didn't need anybody to be around me. And I think those are the things that serve comedians well.
Is that coincidence or is that a defense?
No,
because people weren't there.
I think it was preparation because people weren't there. And I've had to do shows. I had my kidney disease. I worked when I was sick. I did stand up when I was sick.
When did you have a kidney transplant?
In April of 2005.
And your wife at the time?
Yes.
You were married at the time?
I was married, yeah.
She gave it to you? I wasn't sure if it was after the fact.
Yeah.
Weren't you on, wait, I'm now remembering, were you on Curb?
Yes.
About the kidney transplant?
Richard Lewis, yeah.
What an episode, too.
That was a good one. That started the whole Starfucker kind of thing with the doctor, where they were trying to get in good with the doctor to get Richard Lewis a kidney. And then I said, oh, man, I remember they had this fucking sheet of paper like the sides, and Jeff and Larry came over and they go, don't worry about this. Just get to this. And I call him a Starfucker. He said, oh, don't say Starfucker, man. I mean, I like it, but don't say it because it's, I don't want to put that in your mouth. Just say, just talk about Richard. And it's like, and I said, well, it's not the Richard Lewis from 20 years ago. I mean, he would have gotten a kidney like that. But now the Richard Lewis of today, maybe he's going to go on the list. Where would he be on the list, George? Probably low. I would say almost at the bottom. I think if I would just say
it's so on the nose and it works so well. Let's see, if I had to guess, probably at the bottom. Like there's no numbers.
They go, hey, George,
so
and
that's one of the best episodes of the show.
Yeah, and Larry,
he hits the doctor and leaves the note.
Yes,
and he goes, pretending like he's very orthodox.
That was it. And Larry was like, because I just played golf with him the week before, and then a couple weeks after, he called me because I think Stephen Kojo from Entertainment Tonight fell out, and then they go, "Where do we find somebody else who's had a transplant?" They were like, "George Lopez had a transplant."
They're literally looking at people who were on a transplant list on their list for people to play the transplant.
And then he
list.
called me up and he goes, "What the? What the fuck? What the fuck?" He goes, "I just saw you." I said, "Yeah, you didn't say anything." I said, "Larry, what am I gonna fucking tell you, man? I'm getting a kidney transplant."
How long?
Probably three weeks after. No, maybe a month.
Wait a minute. You had gotten the kidney transplant a month before?
Yeah.
And when did you film that? A month, like within months, you got
I filmed it within a month of getting a transplant, and it's right over there by Val Surf, where there used to be a hospital there. They tore down, and now it's apartments. We did it there, and I was on all this fucking medicine, and fucking Larry had me there longer than I needed to be. And toward the 12-hour cycle of my medicine, I started to kind of fucking wig out a little bit. Nobody saw it, but I was there a long time, and I didn't bring my medicine with me. So when it starts to run out, you start to get a little fucking jittery, man.
Get out of there.
I know.
Did you ever think that you might be able to be on one of, if not the greatest show of all time, because you got a kidney transplant?
No. I mean, I loved that show. I mean, I watched it. I loved it. I loved him.
How'd you become friends with him?
How did I meet him?
Also, I'm sorry. I didn't want to cut you off. Where were you going with that?
No, nothing. I met Larry at Riviera. I think he was golfing. My show was already on, and he was golfing. I was golfing, and I golfed with him with the director that did my show, and then we liked each other immediately. Joe Regabuto, who was on Murphy Brown. Yeah, he played Frank Fontana on Murphy Brown, and then seeing Larry, and then I got him a couple putters from Scotty Cameron, and we were in there. But I mean, that show was fucking everybody watched that show.
Are you still friends with him?
Yeah.
Are you going to get him on your podcast
He wouldn't do it.
to promote his thing?
He wouldn't do it.
Do you want me to call him?
No.
Okay. I was going to
No,
say we
man,
could call him on
he
the
doesn't
pod.
do a lot of stuff, man.
I know.
He doesn't do anything. But I asked him to do this fundraiser for Nicaragua when they had, and I had a lot of people do it, and he wrote, "I'd much rather give you a fucking kidney than to have you come back and do this again," which I love that dude. He's, it's great humor.
All right. So a decade of doing road stuff. I want to hear the Sandra Bullock story. How she sees you and gives you a show.
I'd found out that that a producer wanted to come and see me at the Ice House, and that was in
The Ice House.
July of '99. And when the show was over,
3 months before the Dreamcast came out.
is that what
2
it was?
months before the Dreamcast came out.
What's that?
Dreamcast is a video game that I remember came out on 9/9/99. Whoa. That was when Dreamcast came out, September 9th,
A little
1999.
too German for my taste.
No,
man.
9.
All right.
Not 9.
Okay.
It was the first system that lets you go online and connect with
Oh, wow.
But nobody went online with it.
They didn't trust it?
George, I think if Dreamcast kind of came out wearing a suit, people would have trusted it a little bit more.
But it didn't.
But just the connection, it took way too long.
Yeah.
But it was the origins of this is where all the 2K games started.
Yeah.
From that.
It would have been early.
So I got Dreamcast around the same time that you got discovered by Bullock.
And then all those interactive games, Pong literally they had a football game that had a metal playing field and little guys that are down in a crouch, and the football was
Down on a crouch?
was a piece of when they're down like this, like they're gonna block you, and the football was a piece of fucking lint that you put on the guy in the back.
What are you talking about? What game are you talking about?
A remote football game
When?
in the 70s. So if you hit the switch, the fucking board vibrated, and then the men went in fucking 22 different directions.
Yeah, game sucks.
Yeah, they would end up blocked against the walls and stuff. Fucking crazy, man. You go. All right, you ready? You got your guys lined up, and they hit it. Go,
And if you don't have a ball, you just reach in your belly button.
yeah, you pull some fucking lint out.
All right. So, you know what I missed? I missed the pun of me getting a Dreamcast and you getting your Dreams cast from.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah. So, I don't know.
You were a young boy, man. How old were you?
In the 70s?
Yeah, no,
15?
The Dreamcast, '99.
15?
Yeah. Yeah.
14 or 15,
Yeah,
depends. It's 15 when it came out. So it seems like people just kept coming to see you. Hey, let's go see George.
I had a lot of people coming to see me at that time, and after the show at the Ice House that July, I didn't see that dude or hear from that guy for another calendar year. Like, he went away.
When 2K1 came out.
And then he came in and said, he called one day and he said, "You still interested in that idea?" I'm like, "What idea, motherfucker? You went away for a whole year. What are you talking about?" And he came back, and he had Sandra with him. And she
Remind me, what is 2000 Sandra? Is she's done Miss Congeniality at that point?
Yeah, she's a big actress. Big actress at that time, yeah. And
Speed.
she was very close to her mother. Her mother had just passed. So she had become very disillusioned with the business after losing her mother she was very close to. So she was going to step back, or she did step back. And when she came to see me, she wasn't acting, and she wanted to produce. And when she saw me, she said, I want to see more of what is in your act and what your family's about, because I think that it's a train wreck you can't turn away from.
The set she saw, you were already talking about family,
Yeah.
right? And she wanted to see more family.
Yeah. And she was pretty consistent, man. I had people that I asked to help me out, and they would say no. They would be like, no. Even when the show started, I have a friend of mine that's a friend of mine to this day. And I asked him, "Hey, man, would you be willing to do a promo for my ABC show?" And he goes, "No, kind of not a thing I do."
Ask people to help you out in different ways? Like what?
Well, I think at that particular time in 2002, having, there wasn't all of the streaming and there wasn't all of the cable yet, but to have somebody who was an identifiable star do a promo with somebody who was on their way up was a great way to be seen.
And they said no.
And they said no, and Isai Morales, who was doing NYPD Blue at ABC, said yes, and it was a fun promo. It was fun.
It's kind of like when you're a comedian that is friends with another comedian, and that comedian has a big podcast, and you don't, and you're like, "Hey, could you come on my podcast?" They're like, "I'm sorry, man."
Yeah, they don't.
They don't want to water themselves down, maybe.
Yeah.
But Sandra Bullock, she could greenlight a show because she says, "I like it."
Well, I don't think that's the idea of it, but she could get you a meeting. Like Bruce Alford, who did Drew Carey and he worked on Roseanne. He's doing The Connors right now. We met with him in February of 2001 with Sandra. Me and Sandra went in there, and he said, a few years later, "I didn't know who you were. I just wanted to meet Sandra." So they said, "Hey, Sandra Bullock wants to see me, have a meeting because she has somebody." I said, "Fuck yeah, we get to see Sandra."
So she's an EP on it, and she's been making money off the show too, right?
Yep.
Good for her.
Yeah, man. It's listen, man. I don't think there's accidents, but my life was not one that I would necessarily would have wanted my daughter to live. I had a lot of pain, man, a lot of pain, and I don't rely on that, or I don't take it with me anymore. I left it all behind.
You don't rely on it. Could you say that differently?
Sometimes people, like, they can't get out of their own way. They like to talk about when they were hurting and when they did this and when they didn't have enough money to do that.
You're talking about as subject matter.
Yeah, I don't care about that shit. I know what I've done, and I know what I mean to me. I don't care what I mean to anybody else.
What is advice that in the same very tangible wear a suit type of thing are things that you either figured out or was also people gave you that are still rules that you try and follow or at least recognize?
There was this reporter, Giselle Fernandez. She was on 2020, and I think she's on like the Spectrum morning show they have on the cable thing. And she told me to be bold. She said, you're better when you're bold.
IKEA had a billboard that said, "Be bold, not beige." My dad and I mentioned it a lot. We like that.
Yeah, be bold.
So you make it, so you do something, you go, "Not bold enough."
Or I just said, told myself before, be bold. Great advice.
What's an example of not bold versus bold, doing the same either joke or energy?
Well, I never asked anybody how the audience was. Like, hey, how's everybody doing? And I don't do that shit. So
It's
being
ridiculous.
being bold is just getting into your material and not saying, how about a nice round of applause for him? Fuck him. So just being bold and being straight ahead and just grinding and driving forward.
Give me another bold example.
Not talking to the audience.
That's the same thing. Other than not talking to the audience, how could you be bold? Is that just it? Like,
I think that's it. Right?
Because people talk to the audience as a way of kind of like getting
breaking the ice. I don't do that.
Do you ever talk to the audience?
Not really. You know, I worked hard not to be able to do that because I saw guys that did it, and it just, you know, even when guys went before me, if I heard that they were talking to the audience, I would tell them, hey, man, don't ask any motherfucking questions. Just do your shit.
Guys before you that are opening for you or random shows?
Guys that were open for me.
Right. Because you didn't want your show to be that.
No. I mean, I did a show with Russell Peters. That's all he does. And then I went up and somebody tried to talk to me and I said, hey, the guy that you were talking to is gone. I don't give a fuck and I don't talk to people. So enjoy the show. Or
What happens when you talk to people that you don't like?
I just don't like it. I mean, you work hard to do your act.
Right.
You don't work hard to fucking talk to people.
Do you believe that some people work hard to curate an act where they do talk to people and
Yeah.
that's their thing?
Yep.
I don't like to. I don't.
It can unravel.
Have a hard
I mean,
rule.
You're just trying
Yes.
to keep them together. And, you know,
It's harder to control.
And even if the show goes longer than 2 hours, you know, you start to realize when you're up there and all the bullshit that happens beforehand that those guys have the prime fucking time and you're getting past the prime time where you're going to have to fucking mop it up over here because people are becoming unruly.
Is stand-up something you're always going to do?
No.
Are you done?
I will be done.
What is Will? When you have a date?
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you what the date is, but
Are you working on a final special?
no, I don't think I have to do a special.
It's exhausting. Is that why you don't love it anymore?
No, I do love it. It's just, you know, I have a lot of other things coming on in my life, and I've been doing it for so long. I'd like to fucking enjoy my life. I'd like to not I'd like to be outside when the sun goes down and not inside preparing to do a show. I mean, I like that people have come and see me, but it's my favorite time of the day to golf is when the sun goes down, and I've missed years of that because I've been preparing to do shows. You know, I'd like to just be able to enjoy myself and travel and not be a slave to stand up.
You're doing a lot of dramatic stuff. Is that part of the same thing of getting away from comedy, or is that just the type of roles that you're getting now?
No, let's see. You know, the roles started to come in dramatic. Let's see. I would say, let's see. When did I start doing them? I think maybe within the last 8 years. I did River Runs Red. And then I did like, you know, No Man's Land and just the parts didn't even have to be big necessarily for me to do it. Like guys would be like, oh no, you know, they have to be a bigger part. But I would tell the guys that I worked with, I don't really care about the size as long as the
Motion in the ocean.
the emotion
is good.
yeah.
I don't care about the size as long as the emotion in the ocean, is good. And you have a couple movies coming out, right? Afterward, is that already out?
Afterward, we haven't done yet. That's with Dito Montiel and Aaron Eckhart and Terrence Howard.
Tito Mantillo, I don't know who that is.
He did a book. He wrote a book about the Saints of New Jersey or Saints of Newark or
When they
something
came
like
marching
that.
back?
And it was a great book. They turned it into a movie, and it was good. And he was into punk. But I think Dito was into like punk music and became a director. Great dude. And
His name sounds like You Kill My Father, Prepare to Die.
Tito. Yeah.
And me and Montoya.
yeah,
My name is like me and Montoya.
you killed my father right today. So yeah, we would talk about that one and this Amazon show that we're doing right now. That is
Oh, is that going to be on Amazon?
Yeah.
I saw that. Cool.
The
My
family
show is coming out. It's going to be Amazon.
oh good, right on.
Maybe we'll do some press together.
Let's do it.
Do you? Is there a line between stepping away from stand-up, which is more so the time and the late and the obligation, but comedy, versus doing these other things that are not comedy? Do you feel yourself not wanting to be on, or is it just unrelated?
No, it's unrelated. With the business part of it, like a few years ago, we opened the restaurant over there in San Manuel, and from that came like a deal to do meat that's in the stores and beer, and then the DoorDash thing. So there's a lot of business that
Like Shaq.
that looks great potentially. So
Getting into brand deals and
Yeah.
stuff. Shaq does so many things.
fucking Shaq, and you know Shaq, when Shaq retired from football or basketball,
I think it was football.
When Shaq retired from basketball, he didn't have as much money as he thought he did because he spent every dollar he made. But he does everything, man.
It's
a fucking
hysterical. I send to my buddy John whenever we find a new one. We send each other stuff. I mean, he's got a cardboard cutout at Staples because he's doing Epson ink. I mean, he's everywhere. TJ Maxx, Krispy Kreme donuts, icy hot.
Papa John.
Made a killing with the ring cam. You
That's
know,
right.
I think he like tens of millions from ring cam.
I think he was one of the original investors.
Maybe even more than tens of millions. There's a chance that he made more money from the ring than he did as a Laker. I mean, that's a statistic that I'm not backing up, but I mean, they're comparable, if not more.
I mean, a lot of people have the ring camera, yeah.
So yeah, you're getting into that.
I'm getting into that, you know, and I think the quality of it is good. You know, the beer we brewed in Torrance, and then you know you see the gradualness of something becoming a success. Where
What's the name of your beer? Let's do a quick commercial for it. Hold on.
Hey everybody, it's George Lopez. I have this great beer. It's George Lopez Brewing Company's 4 different flavors. I think you'll love them all. And if you try them and you don't like them, I'll drink the ones you don't drink.
Oh man, if I thought my mouth was watering before,
Delicious.
I was gonna say I was embarrassed. I hope I wasn't drooling. So, what's the podcast for you then? What's you starting your podcast? Where does that fit into the business versus a thing that you love doing?
You know, I think, you know, for all the years that, you know, somebody hired you and then tried to change you, that there's never been anything that I've been able to do that's been as free as doing the podcast.
Even stand up?
You know, I you know, everybody's so fucking sensitive, and it's different because you're confined into a place, and you don't have to worry about anybody interrupting you. You don't have to worry about what particular time it is. You don't have to worry about who's out there, and it just gives the free form conversation where you can, you know, talk about things that you remember, talk about things that weren't planned, is what was intriguing to me. And then finding Gil because of the, you know, that documentary with the Night Stalker, and finding a new friend and him being on there is great for me, man. Like, you know, that guy, his life has changed so much just in the 11 months of this new year because of the documentary. And, you know, he's enjoying it. So I enjoy doing it with him. And I really even haven't had any of my friends, you know, that I golf with or anybody come in, because it's not about that. It's not about getting somebody who's popular or somebody that people know. I think it's where normally that would be the thing. I like that it's not that.
So this charges you, as opposed to a job that drains
I don't
you.
hate it. I don't hate it.
You think you'll keep doing it?
For a little while, yeah. I don't think I'm gonna do it the rest of my. You know, I might do it another year. Reevaluate it at the end of 22.
How much does your podcast feel like? And I guess by you saying you don't have some of your more influential peers on, but how much does it feel like Lopez Tonight? Like, how much is what you do a long form talk show versus whatever else it might feel like?
I think it would be more like Lopez Tonight, which you know, man. I mean, fuck. I mean, shit. You know, TBS wasn't in late night, and Fox hadn't figured out what to do with late night. There wasn't a lot of property available.
You were the first late night TBS did, right?
Yeah.
And it's a wild story with Conan and everything.
I blame Jay Leno.
Because he made Conan.
Because Jay Leno went to 10 o'clock when he should have just.
Well, let's set this up for people
away.
that might not know. Conan is doing the Tonight Show.
Yes.
For a year, and then the Leno thing came in. So Conan is now out. You were already a year or two.
I was 1 year in
on TBS, and then Conan comes and TBS offers Conan your time slot, which was 11.
11.
Right. So then they were going to bump, or they would bump you to 12.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the story of Conan asking your permission?
No, he didn't ask my permission. He just wanted to talk to me about whether it was a good place to work, or whether they were creative or not.
Because I heard that you gave him your blessing to do it, almost like, not that you would want that, but like it was because didn't he? I vaguely remember.
But they would have done Conan whether I was there or not. So what I got out of it was another year moving to midnight, because they really could have fucking paid me off to go away. I didn't have a contract for 2 years. So they would have said, if I would have said, well, I'm not moving, well, then you're fucked then, because you're fired.
Do you have any beef with Conan for
No.
that? But you do with Leno. Not beef, but blame.
You know, Jay Leno's, I mean, I've talked about him before. He did that show at 10 in front of Conan instead of just fucking going away, man. You know, why would you fucking do a show at 10 that's a talk show before the Tonight Show, and you just got fucking bounced from the Tonight Show? Nobody got bounced from the fucking Tonight Show. The guy did it for fucking 40 years, and then you did it and backed your way into it, and then now you were being replaced, but then you go at 10 too. So his move to 10 started this whole cycle of me getting bumped to midnight and Conan going over to TBS, but it's all right. Everything works out for the reason it worked out.
Did you love doing a talk show?
You know, I didn't like going to work every day and having people who didn't know anything about late night tell me that we're losing this demographic, or somebody was mad, or this wasn't the demographic and this is. It was just so much bullshit that there's no way that anybody would want to work under those circumstances.
How does that differ? Because that's a network, but so was your ABC show. So how does that differ to where you were allowed to do what you wanted more so on a sitcom than late night?
Well, sitcom is all planned. It's 22 minutes. It's written before. The writers were really good. So we were delivering a good product that was on brand, like family, yet it could be a little bit edgy, and people liked it. With the talk show, we were, being a little edgy, going a little colorful, going a little wild. The guests, we never had a problem booking guests. They loved coming on the show, and it was just a little bit of the Wild Wild West versus, being a little bit more of a business format.
So it would be James West versus Will Smith in Pursuit of Happiness.
Yes.
Does that joke work? Because I know with pictures it does. So I'm sorry for interrupting with that, but I think it's really important that the audience understands Wild Wild West Will Smith from The Pursuit of Happiness.
Yes.
Will Smith.
Well done. Well said.
Thank you.
So but also,
Thank you so much.
Also having a kidney transplant, we drank a lot, and I don't think.
Oh, I didn't even think of. No, that's liver. I'm an idiot. Does drinking still can't be good for you?
Right? When I was married, my wife said, shouldn't he have to worry about his kidney? And the doctor goes, that's liver.
Yeah, but
It's not a problem.
you're fine.
As a matter of fact, I had a kidney transplant 16 and a half years ago, and my kidney function is 0.2 more than it was when I left the hospital, which is nothing. Out of all the shit that I've done, I almost have the same numbers I had when I left the hospital in 2005, which is pretty fucking amazing. I don't look sick. People get jaundice. People get bloated. People look different. I don't have any of that.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Did that stop you touring?
No, man. I mean, I think I went harder. I did a show at the amphitheater a month after my transplant. I don't know how anybody else did it, but this has all been kind of an unexpected thing for me. Like even
What is this?
The whole business and having things and not having things growing up, or knowing people or doing whatever. It's been it's been fun. I mean, I don't hate it. It's been fun. I mean, to grow up with so little and then be an adult and have so much and still have the nucleus of somebody that is appreciative and not, spiteful and doesn't hate people. I don't have any of that shit.
What has helped your career more, your hair or golfing?
I would, what? I'm going to say my hair. Although I did, I used to watch the AT&T that they played at Pebble Beach. I never thought of being in it. But I, every February we would watch it on the road before shows. They would show Andy Garcia and they would show, Kevin Costner and those guys. And I played in that for 9 years. And Andy Garcia was my partner for like the first 7.
Small world. Small
Crazy.
water world.
Small water world. Amazing. It was amazing.
You're good at golf.
Decent.
Is that a humble thing or are you just decent?
No, decent. I was never trying to be good. Guys get mad. If you get too good, guys get mad. And I didn't want to be where I was unhappy with hitting a good shot, but maybe it didn't go exactly where I wanted. You guys throw shit. I mean, I'm not that guy.
It makes me think, if you're a fan of the show Entourage, I have to imagine.
Yeah, sure.
When Johnny Drama they were creating the show Johnny Bananas.
Yep.
And he needed somebody to play a better looking version of him. No, before Johnny Bananas. This was when they were going to do a sitcom, live action, and they brought in John Stamos. And Johnny Drama was like, "Is Stamos better looking than me?" And everyone's like, "Well, you know." And then they played some ping pong, and Johnny Drama beats Stamos, and Stamos is mad because his character is very egotistical. He's like, blah, 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 and you should have let Stamos win. That's making me think you didn't get good enough at golf so you could do a show with Stamos. Am I?
You're way off the fucking mark there. But
Okay.
it's a good theory.
Man,
It's a good theory. I don't think I've met
interviewing's
John.
tough.
I don't think I've met John Stamos. Maybe once.
I got a fourth surprise for you.
Where is he?
Ladies and gentlemen,
This one I want.
it's your mom is here. Do you get goofy?
No.
That's wild.
But also,
knowing your comedy.
But I'm a 60-year-old man.
We're all 60. I've been 60 years old for the 18 years.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Maybe with weed, maybe a little bit. But
Do you still get high?
I was using those fucking those malted balls to sleep. They were fantastic.
You know what I'm going to do? This is not even a sponsorship. But when I came to do your podcast,
What do we give you?
it wasn't you, but I had something dropped off, and it was dropped off at the studio.
Oh, shit.
Because that's when they were dropping off, and that's where I was going to be. And I talk about them all the time on my podcast. So they said, we're actually trying to get them to advertise. They don't do it yet. But Kiva, do you know Kiva? Kiva chocolates?
Yeah.
They are, I don't
right.
smoke anymore because it hurts my throat. I do edibles, and I'm almost exclusively, if not exclusively, Kiva brand. They are unbelievable. The most consistent high, and it's the kind of high that, everything's a little different. It's the kind of high that I like.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, tons of the shit now. But also they do, you call them
Mothballs?
mothballs, which is what you put in the closet so they don't
like
eat
Whoppers.
stuff. Yeah, they send stuff like that. But no obligations.
All right.
But if you're ever up for coming back on and doing an episode where we get lit up,
We'll do that.
I would love to see you goofy.
I'd do that. All right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Like high.
Hi.
What do you like when
I've
you're
been
high?
high. I think I'm goofy when I'm high.
Like
Giddy.
like
and
the way you
laughing
are on
and shit.
stage?
Yeah. More.
Is it hard for you to go on stage and turn it on like that when that's not what you want to be?
I think I'm more adult now than I was. I don't run around as much, and I can deliver more in the power of the direction of the words more than running around. Although you see as athletes get older, they go, that guy you would have caught that 5 years ago. That sometimes I have to remember to move around a little, at least a little bit. You can do it planted now.
They say the jump shot is the last thing to go. Like
That's right. When Kareem was played, I think till he was 42, And as he started to get a little bit older now, that sky hook would start to bounce out when before it would go in. And then you see that in reality, still from the same distance, it just didn't go in.
But before that goes away, your speed, your jumping, your dribbling. So it feels like that's like the silly shit.
Yeah.
But the sitting down and delivering a joke is the jump shot.
Yes.
I have a Kareem anecdote that I've told once on this podcast. I don't remember when, but I'd like to tell it to you. Okay. What do you guys think? I was in Cleveland, flying back to Los Angeles. My arms were tired. Or boy, were my arms tired. Or girl. And I get a first class ticket because Daddy's treating himself. You know, I'm not the success of the Take Your Shoes Off podcast yet. But, you know, you first is better.
It's better.
Especially when you're tall. And I have to pay for extra legroom anyway. And instead of paying an extra $150, I'm spending an extra $450, and I get the big seat.
Where do you find that extra on the bulkhead or?
No, I don't like bulkhead. There's most airlines have like X rows where it's just extra legroom. Also, a little trick to not sometimes there's 2 exit rows, and exit rows always have extra legroom.
Right.
But if you do the second exit row. Exit rows are not. Yes, exit rows are not allowed to have the people in front of them recline. So the first exit row, even though it's extra legroom, you can't recline that much. So boy, are your legs tired. But that's not the point of the story.
That's not the point.
I'm flying first. I was watching. It was the last year of the playoffs where LeBron was still there.
Yep.
And Kareem was doing, Kareem does. He comes in, he goes, oh, good basketball or whatever he's saying on the broadcast. And same reason, I don't get the last row of first class because you don't get to go back as far.
That's the bad seat of first class.
Yeah, we know.
It's probably like that too. It's like that distance. Go back.
You get in first class and you can't recline.
Fucked up.
Don't look at me in the eyes.
So I get one in front of that because I still like to be near the back. And I get on the plane because I like to recline. And out of all the people in the world who you don't want to be behind you, it would be, it's not like it's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It was. Kareem's behind me. And I'm sitting there, Kareem is there, and I clock him. And I do something that I've learned in this business makes me very cool. If I see somebody who even makes me be like, you know what I do? Like, let's say we didn't know each other, and I see you, whatever. I would go like this. And you're thinking, oh, he's not impressed? I want to get that guy to like me.
Oh.
You know what I mean? It's almost like flirting.
Yeah.
Right? I saw Mark, I'm digressing for a second. I was at Radford, CBS Radford, and I saw Mark Wahlberg from Daddy's Home 2 on the lot, and I'm walking this way, he's walking this way. I see him, we lock eyes. You know who turned away first?
Aha, I love it.
I'll give you a hint. He's got one thumb at the moment. This guy. And in my head, I know Mark Wahlberg's thinking, who the fuck was that guy? I turned away first.
I think they would think that if they looked and they go, this motherfucker just turned away from me.
And I got that I'm working on the lot confidence.
Yes.
I'm walking on a lot and I just saw Mark Wahlberg and I didn't stare at him. Because I feel like when people like that see you not looking at them, they know you're a pro. And he probably thinks I'm talented or something. There he is again. I'm sorry to have bothered you. I just love your hamburgers. I met the guy from fucking Wahlburgers and Transformers. Oh. And it went to shit. Sorry. Well, it is what it is. What? Yeah. It's Mark. Hey, will you be my best friend? Yeah. Long story short, I just got my dick sucked by Mark Wahlberg. And it felt good.
Mark, so I go back to my car and I'm thinking like Mark Wahlberg wants to fuck me,
Yeah.
So same thing happens. I get on the plane, I see Kareem, and acknowledge that would be if it was anybody. Look at us,
Yeah.
enjoy the flight. I sit down, and Everybody who's walking on is doing this stuff. So disrespectful, by the way.
Oh,
and they're not even doing this. They're doing this.
I know, yeah.
You know? And I see him. I don't see him. I like feel like he's used to it, I guess, but it sucks. But I have something I need to talk to him about. I'm not just some fanboy who wants to take, who gives a shit? Dude, I fucked Mark Wahlberg, all right? I don't care. I need to talk to him about the situation that, and listen, man, I'm in first. And I know you can't recline, but what are we doing? I paid for this. I don't have your money. So I not only have to ask him, is it okay if I recline? I also don't want him to think that I'm going to turn around and be like, hey, man, I loved you in Daddy's Home too. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I do it, I think the best you can. I turn around and just to disarm. I'm like, hey, man, quick question. Don't want to bug you. That I didn't say, maybe I did, but it was that kind of energy. It was like doing this, letting them know, I know, you know. And I said, I'm fine not reclining. But if it doesn't affect you, I just, would you, and he's like, recline. And I go, and here's what I want people to do to me too. If it's an issue, let me know. I loved you in Daddy's Home. I'm thinking. But, and he goes, no, don't worry about it. And I said, all right. And out of respect, I reclined halfway.
Yeah.
But I do think that recline doesn't affect him in the first because it goes above the knees anyway. There's enough room to where it doesn't make you do this.
Right.
But I had to ask Kareem if I could go back.
It's an interesting thing because, he's so big that his torso would be almost like an overhanging lamp, like a street light.
You can't say that anymore.
Because it's over, And
I was just kidding.
yeah. So when you're leaning back, he might.
Oh,
might be right there.
No. He's far enough back. Just, like nose dripping
hey, what's
on
up,
me.
Kareem? Yeah.
What was the point? Where did Kareem come
first
up?
class.
No, but Kareem, you had mentioned Kareem. Rewind, find it, and then come back once we remember. Are you talking Kareem?
I can't remember when I said that.
Golf.
Oh, about losing it, the skyhook toward the end of his career.
Back to now, or just keep it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're an adult and you call yourself now.
Yes, and Kareem we did this show, myself and Eddie Griffin and Charlie Murphy and DL. We did this thing called the Comedy Get Down for BET, and we brought Kareem to the Forum because there was an arc of us getting him tickets, but there were bad seats and his knees were up to the top. He was up there, He was waving at him, and he won championships in the 80s at the Forum. And I said to him, the Forum was empty, the floor was empty, and just the seats all around. I said, does this place have any significance to you still? And he said no. I thought that was interesting.
Larry Charles said to me, do you know Larry Charles?
Yeah.
I've had him on a couple of times.
He directed The Curb that I did.
Right. He directed that episode. I think I knew that because I think I talked to him about that episode.
He was awesome.
He said he's anti-nostalgia. Yeah, it's living in the past and it serves no purpose. I don't agree. I understand it, and I think there is value in that as a perspective instead of the perspective because nostalgia. I mean, I'm a Jewish family where I'm Jewish because of the tradition, not the religion, and all these things that were from the past that we then continue to do, and it's beautiful. We love it.
Yeah.
But that idea of which makes me think of what Kareem saying. No, that was. There's no need to. It's almost hoarding in your mind in a way. Where I think it's kind of cool to be able to let stuff go, but I also think it's a bummer to not be able to appreciate that romanticized thing.
I'm going to agree. I never really collected things or, collected toys or cars or Hot Wheels or whatever. I didn't have enough money coming up to collect stuff, but as I got older, I started to really enjoy the things that I would have liked when I was younger, going to concerts and meeting the guys in the concert or playing golf with some particular guys or, meeting different people and things that, I pretty much became friends with a lot of the people that I admired growing up.
That's what's been happening to me because of the podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, what the fuck are you doing here?
Right.
Having people coming over that not only would I not necessarily have met, but to have these long-form conversations.
Right.
And I do feel a sense of, I'm also a collector, like I've always been. So I do feel a sense of collection. Sometimes I go to rickglassman.com because that page is just all the episodes in thumbnails.
Yes.
And I scroll through and I see, first of all, each thumbnail takes me way too long to make. I mean, some of them take me an hour to make a fucking picture. So it feels like trophies to me.
Right.
And each accomplishments, both in how long I worked on the episode, the thumbnail, the guest, the conversation. And I go through and I'm like, because sometimes work could be disheartening. It's just,
Sure.
you're going on the road nonstop. What's the point? Blah, blah,
Right.
blah. And sometimes I look back and it does feel like, look at what I've collected. These experiences that I've collected.
I think it's great.
I have one more thing I want to do with you, but I have to go pee.
Okay.
How are you on time?
Good.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Because if not, we could do an ending right now.
No. Go ahead.
All right. Let me go pee.
All right. Do we need room tone or what?
Oh, fuck. No, I wasn't really thinking that through. We'll be right back.
Hello, goblins and TYSO fans. Please buy merch for my son. The t-shirts are soft and beautiful, and the new hoodie is very warm and comfortable. Please buy merch from us. We need the money.
How'd you hurt your thumb or your wrist? Michael Jackson made a living doing that.
Hurting his thumb?
Yeah. Wearing a brace like that for no reason.
It was more a glove than a brace, right?
He had a brace too.
I don't remember that.
The glove, you don't remember on the road, on tour, he'd have
I didn't tour with him.
a brace.
I don't remember the brace.
I think he would have taken care of you if you had. You would have had great accommodations.
Can I tell you something?
Clothes.
I would have a great podcast with him. Lots of animation.
Lots of animation.
Playing basketball, or more specifically,
yeah.
running into a teammate's shoulder.
Ooh.
You ever take a pee and you feel like this is why we're here?
It's beautiful.
When you have to pee and you
Yeah.
pee, what is a better feeling? Peeing when you've been needing to, or scratching an itch when you couldn't have reached it for a bit?
At any age, I think, I was a 60-year-old man. Usually the stream is affected, but I have a good stream. And it's funny you say that because just a couple days
Thank
ago,
you.
I thought, how fucking great is this to be able to piss this much and have it be the proper color and have it come out correctly?
Kidneys at 0.2. Hairline is fantastic. You got a nice stream.
Yeah, that's it.
Fuck late night.
Fuck late night. I didn't belong there.
So I didn't realize how much I would want to have a talk show until this podcast.
I think it's better to have it in a podcast than to have it in a stage in a studio. There's a lot of bullshit that you'd have to. You wouldn't do well with the bullshit of every day somebody adjusting you and adjusting your tone.
Yeah, unless what my tone was what the show was.
Right.
Like if this show was bought by Netflix or something, and I was able to do it in a studio with a live band and camera operators, and being able to do the production bits that I want to do and that I try to do, and I have people to help with it. That would be amazing.
Well, the one thing that was the interesting thing for me was because of the band leader Michael Bearden was with Michael Jackson when he passed. They were doing This Is It, and the Jim Paratori, who passed a few years ago, calls me up because we were trying to find a band leader, and he says, hey man, I think I found a band leader, but I think we're gonna have to be have some consideration for how we approach him. And I said, what's that? And Michael Jackson still had his band, but he wasn't around. So we called Michael Bearden, and he came to my house. I met him outside. I walked him in like you. And we sat there, and we talked about music and taste and stuff. And when we left, he said, I'll do it.
And that was your band?
Uh-huh. He was my band leader. And he got Prince to come on the show in April of 2011. And Prince didn't do TV at all. So to introduce Prince and to have him walk out and to look at him.
There's your promo.
is fucking amazing.
Here's what the kind of bits that I would do. If I were able to get somebody like a Prince to come on the show, I wouldn't have him come on. I wouldn't have him as a guest. I would have him in the band, not acknowledged. So when you cut to the band, sometimes it's like, is that Prince? And that would be
That'd
it.
be awesome, yeah.
I love shit like that.
Yeah.
I love high production value done in a way that doesn't take advantage of the production, both because of the joke of it, but also because there's this level of fame and success that as people reach certain levels, they only do certain things, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a problem with that when you watch a lot of television, when you have guest stars come in and they don't have people that are necessarily good, because the people that that are good are doing bigger things. And it makes it leaves this gap for all these roles. And I don't mean guest starring in TV shows. I mean any bit that you could do that is not fulfilled by the higher talent. And Will Ferrell, for example, likes to do stuff like that.
Yes.
You know, he'll go in and he'll do a small part for the joke of it.
Right.
I connect strongly to that. But like having a show, like we were talking about with a band and all these things,
Right.
would offer access to so many fun things that you could do. And I would love the opportunity to be able to, we do stuff like that.
We were doing cold opens, and we did one with Sir Ben Kingsley that he had to run with a gun and then kick a box and do something that was almost like you wouldn't think Sir Ben Kingsley would do this, and he did it. So when you see somebody that you don't think is going to be fun, and then they end up doing something fun, you just fucking appreciate them more for being what you would consider a good sport. Because a lot of times even the people that work for a certain person would be like, he'll never do that. But he was fucking great, man.
I've dealt with some people in this podcast where, not in a negative way, but just as a matter of fact, where I'm not speaking to them directly at first.
Yes.
It's dealing with people and them saying some of the things that they need and want. And they're doing that to protect, and I'm sure it's inspired by the real request. But when people come on, what I have found is if they feel comfortable, which is kind of the job of the host, they just want to shine.
Yeah,
People like to, and if they trust that the bit you're pitching them works,
right.
then, I mean, I've never, to this day, I must have missed that cold open, I've never seen Sir Ben Kingsley kick a box.
No.
The dude hates kicking boxes.
He fucking despises it.
Ben, I treat my boxes well, Kingsley. But, listen, with context.
But to see him run by backstage with a full gun and kick a box. And
what was the point of it? Like him coming...
A new show, a new movie, like an action movie.
Oh, he was coming in a hyperbolic character of the thing.
That is fun. That was fun.
So before I peed, and I did that hilarious gag where I pissed my pants.
Yes. Do we need room tone or what?
Oh, fuck. No. I'm also getting a little older. There was a time, maybe even a year ago.
You wouldn't have got up.
I would get up. But you piss your pants, and then you change your pants.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
Do you have to pee?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Sorry. And I'm now going up. I'm like, I'm not going to change the pants. Sometimes you perform a joke. Sometimes it's worth just pitching it.
Yeah.
Which is a
Get a little lax. Yeah.
a great transition into this thing I want to talk with you about jokes.
Yes.
I want to have a comedy class with you for a second.
Okay.
All right. We'll put in a little theme music now. So right now the theme music's going. They're not going to be able to hear us.
This is the class that you learn
put
to
up a
be
logo.
funny
Comedy
with
class
Rick
with Rick
and
and George. It just sounds better with Rick first. And great. Now it's coming in. But just so we could have some lyrics to that, we'll put music. Do you feel comfortable doing the whatever the song would be? Could you
Sure.
just voice over whatever like a jingle, like an 8-second jingle? Whenever you're ready.
This is the class that you learn to be funny with Rick and George.
Okay. George.
Yep.
George. You have an idea, right? I want to talk about my grandma, or how come nobody kicks boxes anymore? Whatever it might be. Do you sit there and find a punchline? Do you reflect on what's funny? Do you take this idea and bring it on stage? What's the process for you?
I think you can find the nucleus of it comes to me, and then on stage you can find its mate. Like you're looking for one sock and you find the other one. You might be able to find. Usually, I find the other one on stage. I can get
The other one being what? The punchline to the setup?
Get around it, yeah.
Could you give me an example of a setup? It could be something you're working on now or something that you did in the Arsenio days of something before it's a joke. That's funny. Here's one sock.
I think back then I had a joke that I love Michael Jackson, and I went back to when he was mauve, the color mauve.
And that's the setup.
Or beige. I was talking about being a fan of Michael Jackson and being for a long time when he was beige or mauve.
Not bold. But I don't want to use that example. That doesn't work for me.
It's his discoloration.
Give me a different example of something that isn't necessarily a funny premise yet. It's just something that is funny to you that you haven't figured out.
I don't know what those are.
So everything that you think of has to be a funny premise. It's like there are observations that aren't necessarily funny, right? I mean, sometimes peeing feels so good. An orgasm. Peeing when you have to pee is just a bad orgasm. There's like levels.
Sure.
It's not necessarily funny, but there's a premise to something. I don't know what it is yet. And then you go on stage and you just kind of mention it and see if they laugh or
the stakes are higher because you're in a theater versus being in a club. Like I don't really do clubs. So you don't have the luxury of being able to bounce around a while.
That's right. So, but you still get to do gyms, right? You still go to clubs, can't you? Or do you not? Do you just always go straight to theater now?
I don't do clubs.
You'll never go work something out locally?
No.
Why? Because you don't want to be in front of people?
No, those times were, they were tough times, man. And you work so much, it's almost like you might not need to go to the club to know that it works. I can tell by how it sounds to me.
Chris Rock will come to the Comedy Store and try something.
Yeah.
That's because he has a different...
Yeah.
So does that tie into you saying you know how to always be good? Like the reason you work something out is so you could get it to be at least good enough before you do it. You feel like you could go in front of a theater and with the energy or whatever, you're able to at least do everything good enough.
Like with the vaccinations and with the culture, I said, you don't want to get vaccinated, but you'll have mayonnaise on corn where the guy has had the fucking mayonnaise outside for fucking 3 days, but you'll jump into a pool of water in a fucking lake and you don't want to get vaccinated. So, the going to the park and buying a corn with some mayonnaise that the guy sells all day with the vaccination culturally it was a good tie-in for me.
And you feeling so secure that you could go up and do something for the first time in front of a theater, does that get rid of the nerves that to me feel almost necessary to have as a performer?
Yeah, because I've been doing it for so long.
Yeah,
I mean you have to look at 42 fucking years of doing it so long that at some point, if a doctor doesn't need to look into a body to know what the issue is. Somebody said to me, the guy over here, and he's got tell me what's wrong with him. Okay, all right. You kind of can see it and you've done it. I mean, I don't think stand-up is as complex as it is in the beginning because you don't know what door to open where there's humor in something, and that's trial and error. But at this level where you've had a show and it's been about your family growing up and the things that you did growing up. And I mean, there's not I think in terms of stand-up, but I don't think I need to go to a club to do it to be able to keep it shiny.
Is that the same reason that seems like a benefit of not needing to do that? Does that play any part into it not being as exciting for you anymore? Maybe why you don't want to keep doing it as much? Well,
no, it's not that it's not that it's not exciting. It just is something that I never wanted to disconnect from it and then go back to it. Like some guys sometimes when they go back to it, they're not the same. But with the pandemic and taking that time off, I didn't want to retire that way. I wanted to see if I could restart it again, and I did. So it's just that Rick, it's been a long time, man. And it's a lot of weight to carry when you're doing that much of that it would free up so much of my life where I would just be able to enjoy myself. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, travel you can't. I mean, every weekend, I've been trying to go to Cabo. I didn't go. The guy's like, when can you go? And you look at the weekends, and I could probably go the end of December. We're in the middle of fucking November. It's like, you want your time to be more of your own.
Well, I'm really flattered that within a week of texting you.
Yeah, and I'm flying out at 4:30. So.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Where are you going?
To San Jose and then to Fresno and then back.
Thank you for doing this.
Of course. Listen, man. I like you, man. I like your humor, and I like the way that you came on the podcast, and we had a nice rapport, and that's why I'm here.
Get a little watery-eyed at the end of both of our podcasts.
That was interesting.
This is fun, man.
I think this is the fastest 2 hours.
Yeah, it definitely has. I was fascinated. I was fascinated listening to you.
Thank you. It was fun. It was.
You know what, man? I
get
you, man. I get you, dude.
Thank you.
I'm gonna tell you that. I don't really say that to a lot of people, but I'm a little emotional. I get you.
Yeah, that got me. That's nice. Thanks, man.
Yeah. I think. Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
So thanks for coming out.
This was really nice.
You know why? Because I know what it takes to be good, and I know when things aren't natural, how tough that can be.
Yeah, there's when I was coming to do your podcast the first time, just to be completely candid with you.
Sure.
I was talking to a friend and was like, what am I gonna what am I gonna talk about?
Yeah.
Not that there would be nothing to talk about, but like, is this guy that's been doing this for so long that, has, even though they're not on your podcast, I guess, but friends with the funniest people in the world, like, I'm a fucking little weirdo guy that goes on people's podcasts, and when I don't even do other people's podcasts that much, but when I do, people are like, who's this weirdo?
But to be a little fucking weirdo guy is appealing to me. Like, I found you very interesting. Also, the things that you had to go through as well, which I think, nobody can do what needs to be done to be a stand-up and have it seem normal. There's a fucking weirdness in being a comedian that you have to have in order to stay like you have almost like an invisible supporter, or you have somebody
supporter
that's always with you. Like,
are you talking about like another personality?
No, it's just that you never. If you felt you were alone during stand-up, it would be brutal. But you always feel like you're taking something with you.
Like what? Do you mean like
your experiences, or you
don't mean an actual person?
No.
Yeah, very interesting how direct line you are to being alone.
Because in a boxing match, like, those guys in the gym are watching you train for 3 months. But when you get into the ring, those motherfuckers stay behind the ropes. And there's only one guy out there.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of this. It's a boxer knows at the end of 40 minutes how he did. And we know.
I do have one more question that is a bit self-indulgent, but I am really asking for data. I had a conversation with my girlfriend, who's real, by the way. She exists. Betty, last night, that I've talked about on this podcast how I read comments. I read comments for a few reasons. One, the biggest reason is probably, I don't know, I want to. But also, and I've talked about on this podcast before, I've never really known how people think about me. I don't know if they know how they think about me, let alone how will I know. People's facial responses and the way things they say, people are very dishonest and manipulative, even if that's not conscious. They're just, fine, thanks, how are you? Right. Or, oh, good job. Just like, even if they think they're being nice, there's so much manipulation in day-to-day conversation based on conditioning and how people are trained. This is what you're supposed to say.
Or you'd say, they would say something like, that was good. And you're like, good? That was good? Oh, all right, okay.
Unless somebody comes to, like, if you're talking about like after a set.
Yeah.
If I make a point, because I recognize this in other people, if I ever want to tell somebody how I felt about their set, I don't do it when we walk by each other, because there's this built-in obligation. Here's another anecdote about seeing somebody famous that I'm like, good for me. a friend of mine, Kyle Newacek, he'll be here. He's a friend of mine, and he is a director. He did the show Workaholics, was where he started.
Yep.
And then he ended up directing recently this 2 years ago, Murder Mystery, Jennifer Aniston and Adam Sandler. Big movie.
Yep.
And I went to the premiere of it, and then afterwards, we're walking out, and they're in the back thing, and there's Kyle and there's Sandler. And I thought, I didn't do anything, and I just left. I'm like, Sandler probably thinks I'm friends with Wahlberg now. But I texted Kyle later saying how much I liked it. And the reason was, I don't think it means anything when somebody says good job right after.
Yeah.
If you're not thinking about it after you leave the guy or girl.
I don't think there's any sincerity in that. It's almost a pleasantry.
So the point I'm making is not only did I recognize it as a pleasantry, kind of, I never understood it. Why are they saying, and I don't mean good job, just anything. I talked about a little bit on your podcast how what I was attracted to about comedy is when you see somebody laughing. I don't know what anyone's thinking. Tell me if you disagree. You could always tell if a laugh is real.
Yes.
I know that's a real laugh. I know. Sometimes it might not seem real, but if you know it's real, you're right.
Right.
10 out of 10 times. That's attractive. I know what somebody's thinking. There's something about reading comments that gives me a little bit of data. It's a poor sample because it's people that...
Not a lot of people do that either, by the way.
And most people will say they shouldn't. And I get that because it could be a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I like it. At least I have so far. But something I've noticed recently as I've been going on other people's podcasts more, and meaning a lot of times these people are seeing me for the first time. There's a lot of judgment. And I don't take it personally.
There is a lot of judgment.
But it is something that reminds me of a lot of patterns in my life before podcasts, before stand-up, which is I didn't have friends growing up. People didn't like me until they liked me, and then they liked me.
Right.
But I guess the positive way of looking at it is I would make very strong first impressions. The cliche is they love you or they hate you, but that's not a real reason. It's just whatever I gave them that day connected with them or it didn't. And that's not a new phenomenon to me. It's hard to make friends.
Yeah.
Why? And here's where the self-indulgent question that it's coming at a time where I am reconnecting to understand this. Why did I come and meet you? We're very different. I'm silly when I'm not high. You're not. You know, we come from different generations. Just so many differences. Why is it that you liked me? And more specifically, do you think we connected? And I'm putting you on the spot, and I realize how weird that is, but what worked with us that doesn't work a lot of the time?
You know, I never really spend a lot of time with people that I feel are insincere or not gracious. And, that's why you have a tight circle. I mean, I can have a lot of people around me, but I prefer not to. So when I saw your Instagram page and when I started to look you up, I thought, all right, this is somebody from a different era than me, somebody that I think is funny, somebody that came recommended highly from Grant and the ATC, All Things Comedy people. And, the reason I wanted to do the podcast was for that, to see people that I wouldn't see if I didn't have the podcast, and to give somebody an opportunity or for me to learn about them. I appreciate everybody that tries to make other people laugh. I've been around a long time. I've seen a lot of guys be successful at it. I've seen a lot of more people not be successful at it. But in the podcast space, somebody can get the attention, or somebody could get your attention faster than trying to rely on seeing somebody at a club or going back to the club and saying, oh, this guy's great, I saw him last week. That doesn't happen that much anymore. So for you, I got the impression that you were being completely honest, which I liked. And I like that things didn't come easy to you, because people like to think that in life everything comes easy to them. And some people are born with a look on their face that things become easy for them. And some people have to work hard for everything. And I was one of the people that had to work hard for everything. I appreciate where I came from, but I more appreciate where I ended up. But also I'm not jaded to where I don't want to see somebody be funny or don't want to talk to somebody who comes highly recommended for being funny.
So a lot of the weird things that I would do in bits that, even there was a couple jokes, I don't remember exactly what they were, but there were a couple jokes that like we kind of passed over. And when that happens, that's fine for me because I know how I could highlight it in editing or something. But when it's somebody else, it's not about the.
The minute you came in and started moving things around, I said, "Okay, I got it," and I let you do it. Like I said, all right.
Before we
even started. Like
there were some issues at the beginning where there were some cameras and the framing I saw required me to sit in a way I didn't want to. So I'm like, could we move this? Which is an annoying thing to people that worked for you.
Because that shit's been that way, the way they set the cameras the whole time I've been doing it. But that's how you came in and you started doing it that way. I thought, no, fuck it, let them do it. Let's see what we end up with.
That's not a turnoff to you.
No.
So I guess the answer to my question is less about what I did and more about the type of person you are that likes that stuff.
No, it was about you. Nobody.
No, what I'm saying is me being that same exact way to somebody else has the same, they're getting the same exact experience now is like, fuck, Rick's difficult. As opposed to, oh, this is weird and funny.
Listen, when I had the fucking talk show, I had fucking actresses fight about what room they were going to stay in, and they were the same fucking room. And you're like, what's the matter? Oh, she left mad because we gave her this room, but she wanted the other room. And they go, did you tell them it's the fucking same room? Yes, but they didn't want to hear that.
Oh no, I want the other room guy?
But no, you just come in and you're fine. Like you don't give a fuck, man.
All right. Well, this was fun, dude.
I hope so. I hope you,
Absolutely.
I answered honest, man. Like, I'm not trying to bullshit you. I'm not trying to bullshit people that listen to you.
That's what made it easy for me. Is you're just like,
I'm not trying to bullshit ananybody. And I think that goes a long way in life. Where sometimes, we hide behind a veneer, but it's not as thick as it used to be. And I drove over here to see, that's a big thing for me.
I recognize that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was right away too. I mean, people were commenting, "Oh, I hope you see George on your on my podcast." And like, I don't like to comment back yet because I don't want people to know in case you can't come or reschedule. But it's like, he came right away.
Yeah. But also, I think I've done a pretty good job of creating identities for me that people think I am and I'm not. I've done adult humor. I've done the sitcoms. I did the talk show.
Right.
You did the animation, doing more dramatic with this whole look for Amazon. But inside, you hide that dude. But I was that guy today with you.
Do you hide that guy, or are there all the different versions?
You don't show him to everybody. You don't show him to everybody.
Right. I've been going back and forth with that.
But
also,
you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about.
Very much. It's something I both like and dislike about the podcast. I don't want to give people this.
Right.
But what I do want is to get in I want people to want to see me perform.
Because let's talk about making crack. You boil it on the stove, and then you strain it, and you get rid of the shit that you don't need, and then what's left is the potency of what it is. So I think
here's the stuff. All of it.
Here's the good stuff. So with you, I believe that as people watch you and become fans of you, some won't stay, but more will stay. And I think that is appealing to you to see your audience grow for you being yourself and not being anybody else.
It does make me feel, though, I'm losing a privacy that isn't anything that specifically is private, but just showing people this all the time and who I am, I do feel a sense of like, I'm not a famous person, but I've heard people talk about the issues with fame and not being able to go outside, and that's a tangible, like, being interrupted. But the idea of people knowing you, there's something about it that is a bit of a turn. When you do an hour special, to use a crack analogy, you're choosing which pieces are out there, and it's curated. This isn't that.
Right.
And that's good because people get to see all the facets, but it's a bit overwhelming because, like, I don't need everyone to know.
In the beginning, you start to see it now. You go out and someone says, "Hey, can you have a mask? Can I take a picture with you?" And they start to follow you, and then they're going to talk to other people, and they're all going to watch you and start to watch you. But then the higher the fame, the more shit. I was at the Broadmoor in Colorado, and this woman was drinking, and she came over. She had something to drink, and she's like, "My son is in the military. Do you mind signing something for him?" And I said, "Sure."
You signed her tits?
I signed a paper, and then she got drunk, and she came back, and she couldn't read it, and she fucking threw it at me. and you're just like, you fucking threw my autograph in my face because you couldn't read it.
So what's the point you're getting? You're talking about how being out in front of people,
being out in front of people where they think they know you, but then also
Yes.
there's a control that you lose in that.
by them thinking they know you.
Yeah. And that lady out there drinking and trying to look at the autograph and goes, I fucking can't read this thing. And, you know, there's people that would take shots at you, and, you know, it's not all, it's not all, you know, nothing is as it appears to be.
I would agree. With the exception of the George Lopez Brewing Company. If I'm looking to have some hops and get a frosty with some of my buds before a big game, the George Lopez Brewing Company not only offers you a comfort that you're drinking the right hops,
absolutely,
but also that you get to watch the guy with great hops playing. That's the George Lopez Brewing Company. George,
yes,
thank you so much for coming over, man. And as always, scoot to Bubbly Blue. Scoot music. That's the lyric. Scoot to Bubbly Blue. Scoot D. Oh yeah.
Scoop D. Oh yeah.